This video is not intended for children. Viewer discretion is advised.
If you haven't already, please like, share, and subscribe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Seven Kinds of Mischief. I am your host, Stone Loki, and with me today is the Doctor of Disaster, Adega Outlaw.
Yeah, you know it.
How are you doing, brother?
Doing awesome. Good things are happening.
Hell yes. Yes, I can't wait to hear about those good things. And soon.
Tomorrow I can be more transparent.
Yes. Something to do with projects you're working on, yes?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Tomorrow, guys, keep your ears open for Adega because something big is on the horizon. And good evening, Chris Persia, Darth Astor, Lord Bob, Colin P. Smith. Lord Bob is the one who won that awesome pulse pistol this morning. Congrats, brother. Dave Bob, what's going on, Dave Bob? And Dave Bob says, Stone Cold Loki. Colin P. Smith, how are you doing, brother? How's everybody doing? Jedi Bill 797, Paulo 30. Good evening, sir. Good evening, guys. Louis Sparrow, good evening. How is everybody out there doing tonight? Mr. Hyde, how are you doing? Mr. Hyde. So, Adega, we are at the end of talking about the Roman Empire, but do you want to go over what we were talking about backstage about the six?
All right.
Yeah.
We got a little. I had not quite a hobby, but we're both extreme fans of modern military technology.
Yeah.
We follow the ship construction, plane construction, tanks, everything from lasers to rail guns. And I tell you what, I think I'm informed of this stuff, and then I bring it up with Loki, and he's like, oh yeah, I knew about that a couple months ago. And this is how this works, and that works. And I'm going, what the heck, man? He's always ahead of me on this stuff. But recently, and I don't know how he knew about it ahead of time, there was and this is what we were talking about backstage, there was congrats, Dave Bob.
Hell
Awesome.
Yeah, Dave Bob. Hell yeah, brother.
The man with a good heart. Awesome. Okay, good. We got another one. Like I said, it's a distraction from the topic of tonight. But I got 2 different notices in the past couple of days about there were several advances in modern warfare that the United States is doing. I don't know if people have followed along, but over the past not the past 3 years, but the previous 8 years, there was a tremendous amount of our military technology that was distributed throughout the world, unbeknownst to the regular public, as well as our ability to provide weapons for those hardware was diminished. The stockpiles were depleted. We were in sad shape. So in order to play catch up, we started doing leaps and bounds. We talked about there are operational lasers now that go on ships, on planes, and on tanks, various different sizes of various different capabilities. We have operational rail guns. And what came up recently was, everybody knows about the F-35, and we have our Lockheed that's selling those around the world to all our allies, our nice stealth planes that can beat pretty much most systems around the world without any trouble at all. There's a couple of Russian things that are pretty high tech that can almost detect it. And then we have the F-22 Raptor, which is the best plane ever made, except for one prototype, the F-23, which was beat out simply because of cost. But in every other way, the F-23 was better. Well, lo and behold, it was released, at least into my circle of influence, where I could find these things out, already developed and flying in 1 year is the replacement for the F-35 and the F-22. I don't know which company makes it, but considering the technology that we're using nowadays, this plane can do what we call super cruise. Yes, 6th generation. It could do super cruise, meaning it can travel at Mach 2 without having to use a short burst afterburner. It just can do it for prolonged periods of time. It has incredible stealth technology, which is better than what we have now, which pretty much is better than all the world's ability to detect. And this cool little thing that they're doing with integrated information systems, where the information that one plane gets will be shared with other planes instantly. They can map it out. All of it will be shared within your helmet, kind of like an Iron Man thing. And each plane will have a fleet of drones that it controls as well, all at these same speeds. Absolutely incredible machines. And I thought, look, I'm going to share this article with Loki. He's got to be really excited about this. And he's going, oh, yeah, I knew about that. Dang it.
Yeah, they just came out with this. They just came out and released this information. And I knew about it when the Chinese were still working on the Dragon.
Dragon's an interesting story, and it will piss you off if you knew everything about it.
Yeah. The engines especially, considering that the engine technology that's going into the Dragon is the exact same engine technology that went into the F-22, except that China can't make it work. They cannot make it work, so they're using the MiG-35 engine.
Sukhoi engines were designed by Russia, of course, and they work on they call them a 5++ because they're technically not a 6th generation. You could still kind of see them. They have rivets and their skin doesn't quite work right, and they can't hide the heat as well as our planes do. But, we hear all this talk about China and how China's been infiltrating and doing terrible things around the world and stealing stuff. There's a reason why their planes were designed for an F-22 engine, because they stole the technology.
Yep.
So we just had to say, all right, we'll leave that behind and leapfrog way ahead of everybody else.
Yep. And for those of you guys who do not know, there are currently drones that have been test bedded with the F-35. And those drones, coincidentally enough, are called Valkyries. These are stealth drones. They do not have a super cruise mode, but they do have afterburners. And holy shit, cancel, ism, boycott, Adega, evil empire industries from Mexican Iron Man. Oh, you have a hater.
It's only evil by your point of view.
So taco lives matter.
I agree. Taco lives do matter. You need a new truck, buddy. Had too many roaches on it.
Oh shit. The Roach Coach. No tacos.
It was a beautiful thing. Calling Ragnarok to get that big old serpent to come take a bite out of crime.
So the new Valkyrie drones are controlled by a helmet. It's controlled by the helmet, by the pilot, and it's all controlled through his helmet. Now the F-35 can control up to 15 of these all at once, and they're completely unmanned drones. This has just been a test bed. This is something that they were working out, that they've been working out since the creation of the 35. Now, the 35 isn't all it was sold as, but the new 6th generation is. And yes, Dave Bob, a swarm. Yes, they're used as swarms. They can defend carriers. They can fly off of carriers. They can be launched off of land. They can defend bases. But the cool thing is that the new fighter can control these completely independently through AI and through his headset, through his heads-up display in his helmet. He can control everything these drones do. So one plane becomes a swarm, which is exactly what Dave Bob's bringing up. One plane becomes a swarm, one pilot, and this is a single seat plane. One pilot is now 16. So
I don't know if you know, I have no idea what the weapons platforms will be on those drones, whether they're going to be a small laser equipped, whether they're going to have guns, whether it'll have a myriad, a mix, or they're going to just be plain missile interceptors. I have no idea.
They are being classified as aerial weapon platforms. An aerial weapon platform. So, yeah, Dave Bob, multiple weapon systems. They can be configured independently. So, with the new lasers coming out, the chemical-based ones, you could hit a target from, 100 miles away?
Right.
And what this laser weapon does is it superheats the jet fuel inside the aircraft that it's going up against. So instead of burning through the armor, instead of hitting it like a phaser blast, what it does is it literally boils the jet fuel and the plane explodes from the inside. That is extremely awesome.
Now, plus with a wide array where you can send these drones out, I don't know what their range would be, probably about a mile apart from each of them. You could make one heck of a net that would do all kinds of detection confusion for incoming missiles. They would be basically, you can drive all kinds of missiles into the ground without even having to fire a shot.
Yeah. Yeah, you can blow them up on the ground without firing a shot.
Lex Luthor, huh?
Oh, shit.
Oh, well, the Iron Man from Mexico never learned his lesson.
No, we're going to have to get Brown Lantern on here one day, too.
Yeah, I thought I freed Brown Lantern. Calls me evil. He's the one who keeps that boy working all the time.
And Chris Persia, are you sure? I could have sworn he was the Lucius Fox of Valhalla.
As long as I have a job.
And Psycho to Reptile, nice part of drones is they don't have grieving parents. No, they do not.
There's a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of truth to that. But it's been a long time since we've had one of our pilots, at least publicly known, that was brought down in combat. I think Kosovo is probably the last one. I don't recall of any time during our Persian Gulf experiences that any of that happened.
No.
Here's something you might want to think about, Mexican Iron Man. You keep it up, you're not going to make any friends.
No. And I would like to welcome Lord Thoth to the channel membership. Thank you so very much, Lord Thoth, for joining the channel membership. And brother, I got something here for you. Let's see. There we are. Skull! Oh, shit.
Valhalla welcomes you.
Yes, Valhalla welcomes you, Lord Thoth. Thank you so much for joining the channel membership, brother. Now that's what she said. Oh, shit.
Oh, you guys are awesome.
Oh,
here we go.
Here we go. Mexican Iron Man with a $20 super chat. Thank you so very much, Mexican Iron Man. Adega, I need friends like you, like I need my Puerto Rican ex to come back in my life. So bring Itwind up the pitch. Oh, wind up, bring it. Wind up the pitch and bring your demon Skyhorns of death. Go ahead. I triple enchilada dare you. Oh.
You know what? I want you to think of something, Mexican Iron Man. When I release something, I'm like the U.S. When you find out about one weapon, there's already 2 in development.
Oh crap. Okay. I mean, speaking of let's see here. Speaking of I got something, Mexican Iron Man. I'm give me just a second here at Adega so I can pull this up.
That's quite all right.
Let's see.
Iron Man needs all the love we can give him.
He does. He really does. Let's see.
Especially when the Puerto Rican ex comes a knocking. We need to call Lori and have her take care of it again.
Well, that's kind of what I have to bring up here. Let's see, share screen. Mexican Iron Man, I received a message earlier today from this person.
Oh, yeah.
Do you happen to know who this is? Because they were trying to find you and get your contact information for alimony. Something about alimony?
That's one aerodynamic hat there, buddy.
Shit, you didn't tell her I live here, right? Shit, frack. But she was very insistent and said that you owe her alimony, Mexican alimony. Lupita Iron Books, my Puerto Rican ex. That is Lupita Iron Books, my Puerto Rican ex brother. I mean, the resemblance is uncanny.
Yeah, and you both wear masks.
I mean, damn, dude. Oh shit. Those kids are not mine. She had them when she moved in. Oh shit, Mexican Iron Man, what did you do? Lupita Mexican Iron Boobs.
I may not have to do a thing. I'll just let her in on it, you know. I'll make sure she has the GPS coordinates and have a camera nearby.
Yeah, she said something like Tata Lupita. Tata, you know her? Tata? Tatas?
Chichi.
Oh, damn, Mexican Iron Man. Oh.
Yeah, you know that big snake that came and bit you that you barely got out of? There were, I shouldn't tell you this, but I'm going to make you hunt for them. There were little micro nanobots that had GPS trackers, and they could be anywhere. They could be inside you right now.
Oh,
might
shit.
need some laxatives. Go talk to Stephen Walton to get some of his brew. Maybe he can clean that out of you.
Yeah, turning that location services off on your phone, I don't think it's going to help you this time, brother. Okay, guys, I volunteer to get exploded so long as you tell her I moved out months ago. I prefer to get eaten by the snake versus that witch. She maxed out my Amex. Oh, shit. Don't leave home without it. I guess you're kind of having to leave home without it now.
That'd be a lesson for you. Have somebody else pick the women you date.
Unbelievable Mexican Iron Man. Well, I can see why at first you were like, but apparently she was more trouble than she was worth. All right, I'll keep telling her. I don't know where you went. I don't know what Adega's going to do, but I'll keep telling her I don't know where you went. I don't know. He was here and now he's gone. I certainly
call him P. Beep beep.
I certainly won't tell her that you're moving to SC. Oh, did I just say that on the air? Holy shit! I think that's how she found me. Was I was on the air. I'll just go back
license plate for the U-Haul too.
I'll just go back and delete this part of the conversation on the stream. Mexican Iron Man. Don't worry, your secret's safe, buddy.
Now, see, he should consider that a favor, me taking out that van, because she can't track that. Since the taco truck is gone, that's one less thing that she can search for.
Oh no! Why did it jump on me like that, dude? She roofied me, and I woke up naked, no wallet, and she was trying to sell my suit on eBay. Oh, shut up, you guys. He prefers the Skyhorn. I never gave it to you when you sent your super chat, so skull! Oh, thank you so very much, Mexican Iron Man. Oh,
You're a good guy.
You're a good guy, brother. We love you. Don't worry, I'll go back and mute this part. I figured out how to do that when I was dealing with the copyright thing for the DC universe. Oh shit! Are we going? Should we get to the Roman Empire?
Now that we're halfway through the show, yeah, why not? Oh, let me see. I need my glasses so I can actually read something.
Mexican Iron Man said that one doesn't even hurt anymore.
Well, could always call back Ragnarok.
Grumpy diabetic. I should have known something was up when she made six figures, but I had to co-sign on a car. Oh shit!
All right. Well, we're going to cover a couple of different things tonight, and I wanted to talk about the two most notorious, and one of them kind of wrongly so, and they were almost back-to-back Roman emperors towards the beginning. Power corrupts. And the first one is a man by the name of Caligula, which any of you know what that means from Roman, ancient Roman, which I didn't. It means little boot. It was a nickname that he got when he was trudging around with the military when he was a young kid. Oh, his surname, Caius Caesar. His full name, Caius Caesar Germanicus. He was born in August of CE 12 or AD 12, if you prefer it that way. And he died in Rome in 41, so he had a short life. Both of these guys had kind of a short life. It's what happens when you piss people off, especially in the Roman Empire.
Oh yeah.
So, good old friend Caligula, he was ruler for only 4 years, from 37 to 41. And when he came to power, well, it talks about his birth. Some of these things I don't want to get into, but it was pretty short-lived. He was ill for several months after his ascension, and after this he restored the treason trials. These guys were scared of their own shadows, at least Caligula was. And he was pretty dang cruel. He started executing people, a lot of them. Let's see what we got here. In 38, he executed Naevius Sitoris Marco, prefect of the Praetorian Guard. If any of you know who the Praetorian Guard is, that's the elite forces of the Roman Empire. You want to piss off your armies, that's how you do it. Because he was a good guy to actually Marco was the one who helped him get into Ascension, and they turned around and killed him. Let's see. He made pretensions to divinity, another one of those mistakes that a lot of these ancient rulers did, and even some more recent. I won't mention any names. And showed extravagant affection for his sister, which was kind of disgusting, especially Dorisla. Dorisla.
Some of the emperors had that problem.
Yeah, I guess it was because they didn't trust anybody else. When she died, he started the whole diva thing that they were honored with Diva Dorisla. It was the first woman in Rome who got honored so. Tended it to be a Hellenistic type monarch. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm having little difficulties. Some scholars believe that he intended to establish a Hellenistic monarchy after the brother-sister marriage of Ptolemy of Egypt, or like Ptolemy of Egypt. Others thought that after his illness, he had gone mad because he was, like I said, he was killing people, marrying his sisters, and claiming he and they were divine. Didn't last long. Like I said, he was only in power for 4 years. They started revolting across the Rhine. That was up in the German area where they first started having some issues. Tiberius was upset because, well, what he had done, his father Tiberius had amassed quite a heck of a fortune for the empire and for his own particular family. And Caligula got in and spent it all right away. And so his remedy for that was to start taxing the heck out of all of the people that he could, especially the aristocrats, the higher citizens, and some of the Senate. And again, that pissed a lot of people off. So they ended up killing him. Poison was always the choice of the old republic. So they did it to him. Let me see. I know they did that with Nero. I'm trying to make sure that they did it. Sorry for the pause here. I'm just making sure I get this right because sometimes I mix them up.
I think you're right.
Yeah, that's what they did. And then they took his wife and his kids and killed them as well.
Yep.
They didn't want, I mean, considering the type of society they had, I could kind of understand the logic of it. It doesn't always fit, but there have been times, especially in these ancient empires, where if you have a survivor of royal blood or of imperial blood, say a child, they can grow up and lay claim to the throne and convince a lot of people, especially if they have a lot of charisma and pull and friends, where they can divide a kingdom and cause a lot of death. So instead of having to go through all that grief, they said, you're dead and you're dead and you're dead. And they were done with it.
Yeah, they had enough civil wars already. Rome was dealing with civil wars every time they turned a corner. They were dealing with civil war and strife. So to do it this way and prevent a possible civil war, that was their justification for, well, we're not just going to take him out, we're going to take his family out too. That way his children cannot come back and bite us in the ass later.
Exactly. And of course they didn't have to deal with that. The one in between I can't pronounce half of these. Sorry, that's half the reason. Gnaeus Demetrius Ahaboras had died, and so this is years later, not a lot of years later. Let me find the exact time for this. This was 54, so it was less than 10 years later, where Nero came into power, and Nero was the reason why he came into power. He had a real ambitious mother, and she poisoned everybody. The previous emperor, the other ones that were in line of authority, leaving only one left, which was Nero. And he was 16 when he came into power. And people thought, there was he had two prefects that were helping him out for a time. And they thought, well, he's going to be as bad as his mom, and we're going to go back into bad times. But to start off with, and this is why I think a lot of the evils that they used to attribute to him were kind of misplaced. Because the first thing he did was he stopped those treason executions that were going on since Caligula. He also stopped the circus, for a time anyway. So these Colosseum death matches and everything else were pretty much tamed down to where they weren't bloodbaths. He eased the taxes on the people. People started thinking things were pretty good. But he was an odd duck. And their society was a little different at the time, too. He preferred to spend his time on stage doing plays and making music. Apparently, he thought, no one says for sure, but he thought he was pretty good at it. No one's going to argue with the emperor because he'd go around at age 16, 17, 18 doing different plays. And some of the plays he actually played as a pregnant woman or a slave about to be executed. He didn't care about the parts. But the Senate and a lot of the aristocrats said, this is very unbecoming of an emperor. We don't like the way this looks. It led to other intrigues where it eventually got him to the point where he didn't trust people, and he started becoming very much like Caligula at the end, where he had to start executing a few people. It depends on the source, because some sources say it wasn't this case. But his biggest claim to fame, and some of you will probably know this, is, and for the longest time people believed this, and I think it was only the past 50, 100 years where they actually figured out it wasn't the case, but the people in Rome, there was a big fire there. And it had torched. Ooh, sorry. Hope things go well there.
Yeah, Grumpy Diabetic, stay safe, brother.
But in Rome, there was a massive fire, and it had torched over half of Rome. And he decided to have a rebuilding project. But the rebuilding project was to such an extravagant level. 1/3 of Rome would have been just palace. All of that land was being converted to palace. He started taxing people, pulling funds from all around the kingdom. And the people originally thought that he had burnt Rome specifically and that he himself had set fire to it so that he could build this. Not only was the fire reconstruction bad, but the impression that he had done this on his own, the guy's only 30 years old, they considered him a tyrant.
He's the one who had the baths built, that giant bath underneath.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. They dug that up not too long ago too. They found that thing. It was incredible. But they were done with him. They took him out. It started off where he was okay. The people liked him because he eased the taxes, but there was another thing. I'm trying to think. He was a big fan of Greece. Absolutely. And this was part of the reason why they know he wasn't in Rome when the fire started, because he was off doing some things. He dressed in Grecian robes, wore sandals, let his hair grow out long, and the people thought, this is really unbecoming. He tried to mimic everything about Greece, and that's when he started bringing in a lot of the architecture into Rome that had original Grecian heritage. And it was an insult after insult, so he was done. They took him out. Like I said, I don't think he deserves as bad of a reputation as they gave him, but he certainly wasn't becoming a Roman emperor, especially according to what they thought a Roman emperor was. He was supposed to be strong. He was supposed to be very stern, and he wasn't supposed to behave himself as a fool on stage or with a lute or dressing like a Greek. He was supposed to be Roman. And he wasn't. No,
he was supposed to be representing Rome, and he wasn't. He wasn't representing Rome. A lot goes into why Rome eventually fell. And a lot of it had to do with the emperors, the civil wars, the barbarians. There is a man named Edward Gibbons who authored The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire, and he wrote this in 1776. And he surmised that the cause of Rome's fall was the triumph of barbarianism and religion. Gibbon meant that while I can't talk tonight, barbarians threatened the empire from the outside, Christianity undermined it from within, encouraging men to neglect their duties as soldiers to become monks and priests. But his explanation ignores the survival of the more Christianized East Roman Empire, which was the Byzantines. Some moralists once saw in the fall of Rome wages of sin, meaning sexual excess. Debauchery, according to this theory, so rotted the moral fiber of once upright Romans that they could hardly crawl from their marble baths, meaning they were so tired from banging everything in sight they couldn't get out of bed in the morning. And it is possible, Gibbon's description of the teenage Emperor Gordian III, who acknowledged he had 22 sexual concubines and 62,000 sexual volumes, attested to the variety of what he'd like to do to his compromise. And it appears both the one and the other were designed for use rather than ostentation. Gordian reigned from 238 AD to 44 years. He was not a good emperor, but no historian today attributes his failure to his sex life. Basically, what you've got is not only were the emperors tainted and just cared about themselves, like you were talking about just a moment ago, but the governors of Rome were doing the same thing. They let go of their armies. They didn't keep a trained army. The legions were disbanded, and all they were doing was hiring mercenaries. So they had mercenaries protecting the empire. And when Rome fell, when Rome was sacked, those mercenaries just took off. They just ran. They didn't want to fight for Rome. They didn't want to die.
Paid. They didn't have any reason to be there.
That's right.
But that was part of the reason we talked about him last time. When the Christianity was accepted into the empire, was when Constantine, the division was based on the same thing that you're talking about. The people had become very debauched and relied upon non-Romans for an awful lot of the military. He had Roman soldiers and people of honor, and that's, plus the vision that he had and bad tactics by these other forces that allowed him to take power. So they had a brief reprieve before the fall of the empire, but it was hyper-moralization and hypo and hyper, meaning people were either too debased or, like you said, from what you were reading, a lot of these soldiers weren't going to fight. They went to the Christian belief and became monks, which would swear to nonviolence. So they didn't have any soldiers. They didn't have any security on their borders.
No, they didn't. And the divide, and this will sound familiar to anyone living in our society today, the giant divide, ladies and gentlemen, was rich and poor. The rich were getting richer and the poor were getting poorer. So right. There was almost no middle ground.
And that's the thing when you're poor or you're someone without a job. If you don't have hope, you'll grab onto anything that will give you hope. And if it's misguided, you'll follow that misguided direction. That's why communism has come up many times, is because instead of teaching these people to stand on your own and take advantage of what you have and get the government out of the way so that you can do it, they follow along in someone's promises to provide everything for you, which in the long run takes everything from everyone. It's impossible to work mathematically, emotionally. They just can't work in the long run. And yeah.
And yes, Colin P. Smith, you are correct. Attila was one of Rome's greatest enemies. And even though they held off the Huns, they were already bleeding. When Rome engaged Attila and the encroaching Huns, they were already bleeding. And because of that, because of the civil wars within Rome, because of the divide amongst its people, because of it's all these factors. This didn't happen overnight. This took over 200 years. It took over 200 years for Rome to fall from division from within, from attacks from without, from greedy governors that did not pay to have a trained standing army. They paid mercenaries. It was easier. It was easier. They just they gave money to the mercenaries and keep the rest for themselves.
The honor of being a Roman was lost.
Yeah. What it meant to be Roman was lost.
It used to have a very high regard to be a Roman citizen. And there was nothing left to fight for, except for greedy people.
Do you think that started with the emperors, the Caesars?
Yeah. Once the Republic started to fall with some of the bad decisions that the Republic had lost, Caesar the First had taken advantage of instead of reestablishing the Republic the way it originally was, or even a little bit better. When you have one person with that much power, you'd be very, very lucky to find one who could wield it in a good way. There's very few. I mean, you look at the American presidents. Out of all of the American presidents, we have 45 now. There have been 4, sometimes 5 if you count, out of all of them. So 10% that would actually do what the people want instead of what they want.
And Mexican Iron Man with a $10 super chat. Thank you so much again, Mexican Iron Man. I'm back. What's this here about? What's this I hear about ancient haughty action? Romans are the forefathers of Mexicans. For lo, the legends are about my ancestor, Maximus Mexicanus Sexius Anytimus.
Yeah, they killed an emperor who thought that too.
Oh shit, and Mexican Iron Man, thank you, and skull!
There it is! Take your hat off, boy, that's a dollar bill!
Thank you so very much for the super chat, Mexican Iron Man. You keep the home fires burning in Valhalla. Thank you, brother. And Colin B. Smith, one of the dates for the start of the early medieval period in Britain is 410 AD, when the legions were called back to Rome because of barbarian invasions. Yes, sir, it was. They abandoned it, retook it, and abandoned it again. I think they did that twice, if I'm not mistaken. Chris Persia, but Attila was a smart tactician. He hired the Samaritans that settled near the Carpathian Mountains as mercenaries for extra strength. Yes, he did, and he hurt Rome. He hurt Rome. Like I said, the battles that took the toll financially on Rome, the civil wars that took their toll financially on Rome, and then its own enemies within, the emperors that were greedy, that did damage to Rome, that thought, oh, Rome will be here forever. Rome will always be here. Rome will endure. That's what happens. And it didn't. It didn't happen. So when the Saxons eventually taking over Europe, that was a huge win for Europe. And it echoed. The fall of Rome echoed throughout history. It's still echoing today. The things that they find, the things that we learn. I know we lost a shitload of knowledge when they burned the library. That was in Alexandria, right?
Right.
That was.
I personally think there's a big conspiracy there. I think a lot of that stuff's buried in the Catholic archives, but that's just me.
And that's very possible that it could be in the Vatican.
Yeah.
in Rome. I don't know what the
Yeah.
hell's in there.
There's a couple theories on that. There's, some people say it was completely burned. Some people say it was sacked. Some people thought because of the corruption that was going on, that they were good intended people that went there, stole it all, burnt the place down so that they could cover their tracks and stored it for future generations, knowing that it was probably going to be sold off for greedy people, taking little bits of the library, selling it here, selling it there. They wanted it all in one source. And, well, now we don't know.
And Colin P. Smith, again, with words of wisdom, the library burned several times, in fact. I didn't know it burned more than once. You learn something new every day. You really do. Guys, I have this book. I'm not shilling for anyone. I'm not trying to sell anything. It is a wonderful book that was given to me by my father. It's called The Roman Empire, A Complete History of the Rise and Fall, chronicling the story of the most important and influential civilization the world has ever known. It was written by Nigel Rogers and consulted by Dr. Hazel Dodge. It is an absolutely wonderful book. I love this book. It's got everything you ever wanted to know about the Roman Empire. They don't shill. They use actual source material from hundreds of years ago. It is not a revision of our history. It is everything you could possibly know. They don't hold back. They give you everything, even stuff that a lot of people disagree with. They'll throw that in there and just be like, well, a lot of people disagree with this, but in 17 whatever, this person wrote about this, and this is what they thought, and this is what they used to come to this determination. It is a wonderful book if you want to read it. I've read it twice. It's almost like reading a Bible.
There should be incentive for you guys if you can remember that and find a copy if you can, or something similar, because just an example, there have been a lot of people, a lot of no good people, who will say terrible things and write terrible things on Twitter or what have you, and it gets exposed, and guess what disappears the next day? Thousands of tweets that remind people of what type of person this was or what they were involved in. These old books like Loki has, and like the ones I have, preserve that. Where digitally, and you go to Wikipedia or something, and it doesn't show this stuff, and in fact it shows you a revisionist version sometimes of things that happen. You get your chance to grab hold of these old records, even if it is paper and not digital. It'd be very wise, simply for, well, we see the lessons that Rome has taught us. If we don't learn from them, as they have always said, and as we're seeing now, if we don't learn from them, we have a chance to repeat them. And that isn't necessarily always a good thing. More often than not, it's a bad thing. There will be people that take advantage of our ignorance and lead us down paths that we really shouldn't go down, and things that we should be wiser to avoid. So hang on to those things. That's why we do this. That's why Canuck and Doom started their history lessons, to make sure that we preserve these lessons and don't learn them the hard way again.
That's right. And Psychodorf 9 is correct. Think about this. For anyone out there who is like, what? They had steam? These men, the doctors in Rome in 50 BC, were performing brain surgery. Think about that.
Right. They had steam engines. They had batteries. There's the Baghdad battery back at the time. They had electricity. Yep.
And thousands of years before we did. Almost 2,000 years before we did. That's amazing. It's incredible. When Rome fell, the world literally went backwards. That's why they call it the Dark Ages. Because technology and knowledge went in reverse. People went back to a more hysterical kind of way of viewing things. A lot of the myths, a lot of the stories we have about, like, let's say, vampires and werewolves, all of that came out of the Dark Ages. People became more afraid again. And because they were afraid, they turned to different aspects of belief that had nothing to do with knowledge, had nothing to do with intelligence, had to do with fear. And people played off that fear.
No, that's been one of the saddest parts about our history is, like I said, the library was gone. These people, what is it? The what is it? I'm trying to remember the name of it. Antikytherian mechanism, where they discovered this machine that was buried in the ocean for centuries, and they pull it out, and it took them years and years in x-rays and some of our best experts to figure out this thing had mapped parts of the universe that we didn't think they were able to do. Not just our solar system, not just the way the sun and the year and the days. It goes on to 1,000-year cycles of how they were able to observe. Just immense amount of knowledge where these people were able to make a little machine that would calculate it down to the very second for thousands of years. It was all gone because they had, like we mentioned, rulers and leaders and people that were respected at the time that did very foolish things, very selfish things, and prevented the expansion of physical and mental capacities of humanity. We are basically unlimited beings, only limited by the selfishness of a few and those that we allow to take control of our lives simply because of, like you said, myth, fear. That's one of the biggest things. When people are afraid of their security and safety, they'll do silly or stupid things to try and protect it, to get back into a comfort zone, even if that comfort zone is very debilitating to their family and to their society. That's another reason why we do not kneel.
That's right.
It's not just to people that want to oppress or dominate or tell you how to think, but you also don't kneel to your own weakness. You don't give in to procrastination. You don't give in to, well, being in my situation where I started writing and doing things, I've ran into a lot of different artists, whether it become from the music background, writing, it comes from artistic, painting, those type of things. A lot of writers too, where they hesitate. I don't have the time. I'm afraid to. They don't stretch or expand. There's stories, and maybe they're good, maybe they're not good, maybe they're glorious. We would never know because no one took the steps to step out and do it. They were kneeling to their own fears. We shouldn't kneel to anything except to God. Other than that, there's no reason to kneel. You, every single one of you, are glorious in your own right. You just don't know it sometimes, or sometimes you get tired because of the oppressive environment or the hard work that it involves. But we're better than that. You have to reach in deep and prove it to yourself and prove it to those around you. You can all be bright lights and shining stars, even if it is just to your neighbor or to your family. But it is far better to get off your knees and do that than it is to watch society burn and be part of Rome as it burns.
Luis Sparrow says, sounds like today. I want to tell you a little story before we get off the air real quick. In the 7th grade, the math teacher that I had for math, algebra, pre-algebra, whatever it was that I was doing at the time, would have a equation on the board on Friday. And if you got it right, then, and only one person could get it right, because you had to give the answer right then and there on the board as you walked in. So whoever got in there first and got the answer right got the points. I come in, I look, I'm standing there, and she looks up from her desk and is like, Loki, sit down. And I'm like, ah. And I give it one more look, and I write the answer on the board. I just wrote the answer. And she walked up and said I was wrong. And I was like, no, I'm right. And she goes, no, you're wrong. You didn't show your work. The answer was right. I stood there. I didn't have a calculator in my hand. I didn't have any other way to get the answer. I had no way to look up the answer. But I put the answer on the board, and the answer was right. But because I did not work out on the board exactly how I got that answer, I'm told I'm wrong. That, ladies and gentlemen, is discouraging someone. You're discouraging them from finding unique ways to answer a problem. I worked all that out in my head standing there because that's the way I was taught how to do math. That is the way my father taught me how to do math. He was a pilot. He had to know his math. And there was no, let's work out the math on a piece of paper in a plane as you're flying. You just have to come up with the answer. You have to work out the answer, and you have to work it out right then and there. There is no time to sit there and show all your work and do all this. You have to know how to come up with your answer. And that is the way he taught me. And that is the way I did things. But I was stifled because I came up with the answer in a different way than she wanted. If you're forced to go down a certain path every single time to get an answer, what does that leave you?
No better than the person who forced you down there to begin with.
That's right. That is correct. And I am going to give me just 1 second because I've got something here from Colin. I've got something here from Colin. Give me just a second. Let me see if I can pull this back up and show you all.
That is true, Dave Bob. I've seen people calculate with an abacus incredibly fast. They don't have to show their work. You just watch them beads fly back and forth. And if you can do it in your mind, why hinder that mind? Think about it. Loki's not the only one. I'm sure all of you guys know that people that could do mathematics in their head, even some complex mathematics in their head. And if you have a young child that can do that and you slow them down, think of everything that could have been missed. Think of if he could do advanced equations in their head, how much further along they would be when they get into higher math. It goes with anything.
And of course, I got booted. I don't know why it does that when I'm trying to share something from Colin, but it does for whatever weird reason. Try this one more time and hope I don't get booted.
I think he just got booted again. He did. He'll be back. His system's been doing that. He had a big boot problem before we even got on.
Hello? All right.
You're here.
For whatever reason, Colin, it will not let me share that image. It keeps booting me every time I try and share it. So I don't know what is going on. I don't know why it does that.
So long as it's not Iron Man and Iron Lady getting together.
Yeah, no. It was a gearing system. So I don't know why it's doing that, but it's a gearing system. Looks like from Rome, something they excavated. But I don't know, Colin, for whatever reason, it will not let me share that. Sorry, brother.
Oh, it was the Antikytherian mechanism. That's the thing I was talking about, that they dug out of the ocean. But when they finally figured it out, the thing is an incredible mathematical tool to map out sun, moon, and stars.
And the Egyptians had something very similar. I've talked about this before. There is a tablet that they found, and it had markings like a certain Daniel Jackson would say that no one had ever seen before. And when they turned those markings over to a mathematician eventually, that mathematician said, this is how they constructed their giant buildings. This is how they constructed the pyramids. All of this was shorthand mathematics.
There was a thing with you guys probably saw the Mayan calendar, and they said, oh, it was supposed to end in 2012. Well, recent advancements in our understanding of the universe, you're not going to get this from the universities or the main groups of astronomers, where they're trying to map out and calculate how the sun and the moon and Earth, everything, the Earth has a wobble, and they say, well, it just wobbles. We don't have any direction to it. But actually, there are a group of people that have figured it out. And one of these days is going to become mainstream. And the reason why I bring that up is because it matches the Mayan calendar, and these people knew it long before we did. The way the Earth and the sun move around each other is one way. The way the sun moves around our galaxy is another way. But there is, and you guys will see it in my book, something called the cosmic web, where basically the whole universe is filled with ionized plasma. That's where all the missing mass, that's why there's no dark matter, because they're not calculating the ionized mass. And in some places it runs in ribbons, where you have like the Christmas ribbons where they will spin and twirl. Imagine having a couple of those twirling around each other, but they never meet. And our sun travels along the path of one of those spinning ribbons. It takes thousands and thousands of years, and in some cases millions of years. And all of the stars and all of the planets, well, mostly the stars and the galaxies that we see in the universe, we're always trying to figure out why they move in certain directions. Why hasn't this matched up? It's because we're all going around a cycle around these different ribbons as we're traveling throughout the universe. It's all been figured out to a certain degree. We haven't pinned it down exactly. But the thing is, that Mayan calendar had it. And we only were beginning to figure out what they had thousands of years ago. Lost because of people miscalculating how to run their government.
Did you ever look into why they believed that the world was going to end at the end of the Mayan calendar?
There were several different theories of it, but the consensus that I've been finding lately isn't so much that it was an end, it was a restart. Like we have finished an arc along that path, and it needed to restart the calendar to match the new arc.
The final date was also at the very end of the large stone monolith that it was carved on. It was just the end. There wasn't any more room to put any more dates.
Right.
It's one thing they never mentioned when they bring up the Mayan calendar is this was the end of the large stone monolith that it was carved on. There was no more room on it to put any more dates on it. And they leave that little kernel out of information, especially when it was going on, because I was like, man, I really want to learn about this. Well, you see this large stone monolith that has all this information on it, and the last date is the last piece of room they had.
That's amazing.
And maybe there was another.
We don't know. Though.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, we did. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you, Adega, for doing this. Guys, next week, we are going to talk about real life stories that have unexplained incidences involved with them to go along with Halloween. So, yes, it's going to be fun. We're not going to talk about spaceships or UFOs or anything like that, but we are going to talk about strange events that have been reported by real people.
Alien probing would be fun, but we can't prove it.
No, we can't prove it. No, unless you watch Fire in the Sky. If you watch Fire in the Sky, which I do not recommend, because it is very, very graphic, and you're like, oh, no. Oh, no, they didn't just do that. No. It's like watching an episode of South Park. They didn't just do that, did they? Yeah, they did. Thank you so much, Faraday, Chris Persian, Lord Thoth, Dave Bob, Colin P. Smith. Thank you, brother. Thank you guys so much for being here. And we we will catch you next time. I'll catch you tomorrow morning. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be hanging out with Lorena Creel. We're going to have a good time to blow out the week and say goodbye to Friday. We have a movie stream coming up Saturday, movie watch party, Forbidden Planet.
Yes.
So hopefully you guys will be joining us for that, and we're going to have a good time. So everybody take care, and we will see you tomorrow morning.
These videos are tremendous. Like, comment, and subscribe, and hammer that notification bell.